Give me some fucking names. Give this kid 2 fucking games. Give me some fucking names.
For Lord Cars.
Hear ye. Man to the people.
You know it's Cars Keys. Let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our texts like car thieves. Break down, we study tape and thrive.
Analytical preparation, that's what cars is given. Cars don't discriminate, teaching the men and women. Each and every week, there's nerd to get your focus. Never manipulating stats, lore, cars no hocus pocus. Cars keys, they're never lost. Check the source, never gonna find a better scouting report. Cars going live with the smartest man, my bestie. Deciphering holes on the defense like Getsy. New show, uniforms, orange with the dark sea. Tape never lies, patrons, this is Cars
You know
Keys.
it's Cars Keys. Let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our texts like car thieves. Break down, we study tape and thrive. We gotta break down tape like detectives. No hot takes, just real football perspectives. The Bears nerd dropping science on his terms. TTNL giving Bears press like a perm. Other networks are soft with the heads. Stats plus film equals football cred. Analysis like Data Ted tries to shred. McCaskey's letting me cake, we keep the 100 crew fed. Cars keys, let's get it started up. Give me the car keys. Lakeshore Drive. Blog boys drive away with our texts like car thieves. Break down, we study tape and thrive. Lord Hines in his car, fill up a goblet. Lord Hines in his car, fill up a goblet.
I love balls.
We've heard. Welcome back. This is Cars Keys, Season 3, Episode 49. I wish this team had things to talk about, but we're just so good. Eating W's, like Jameis says. No fun around the Bears. Let's go. Let's bring my guy out.
Is him eating the W still one of the greatest moments of all time?
I think every time Jameis speaks is the greatest moment. He is definitely a character. I mean, even in the, I don't know, I haven't watched the entire episode yet of the in-season Hard Knocks. But
I haven't yet either.
Yeah, they refer to him. He's sitting in on the offensive line meetings in Cleveland. And boy, George McCaskey must hate that offensive line coach because he's dropping F-bombs every other word to get his players in the proper mindset. And, you know, because can't swear, Cars. There's
I mean, first off, someone had mentioned that they believe that every non-Sunday game, so Monday or Thursday night, that Jameis needs to be the standby quarterback for either team. And if someone gets injured, he plays. And I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. But, you know, in honor of George, I say we do our best just to keep our language clean today. We want to be respectful of the children and women that might be watching the show.
Well, so. I think George is a cunt. So fuck you, George.
And we're off. We're off.
I'm just, hey, you know, I'm always going to speak the truth. So I might as well put it out there. But you and I were chatting a little bit pre-show, Cars. It's never a dull moment as a Bears fan, as we know.
Not for the right reasons either, right?
Mostly nauseating moments, and it just, amidst all of the chaos, all of the shit that we deal with on a daily basis, it just reaffirms that we actually do have the right guy at number 18. You know, he is rose above all of the craziness in the coaching staff,
members of the coaching staff, right? Like,
it's
I mean,
In the front office, in the fucking front office, man, I got it. Like I said, Ryan Poles, I had, he was like, I was probably one of his biggest supporters, and I know that he had his swings and misses, but man, he's got so much egg on his fucking face. And we talked about this last night, but he was publicly neutered the other day, and you could just see it on his face.
Yeah, he was. I mean, it showed everything when Warren was basically jumping in to answer questions.
Yep.
Really for him, and there are some parts about him that I do not enjoy. I think he enjoys the limelight too much, but I think we also have to recognize he's the first non-family member to really be running this, and I still consider Ted to be family. And you can't, in that organization, nothing is going to move quick. Any changes that he wants to make are not going to be done quick. And it's tough. I still don't understand, to piggyback back to take a step back for a second. We hired a head coach, basically, then a general manager, and then a team president. And we basically said, all right, go figure it out. And I understand that in the end, Ryan Poles had the full decision, but it was the full decision of the three final candidates that he had. And knowing this team and remembering that when Ryan Pace was hired, it was told that he could make a decision, but that they were really heavily leaning on John Fox to be that pairing for him. So we've seen this history in the background.
I said this with Big Steve Cars. It's like you're going through a renovation, right? At the house, and you go to buy some tiles for the kitchen, and you're like, these are nice, and your wife is fixated on these other ones that are quadruple the price. You know what I'm saying? You're like, come on, babe, let's just look at these. You know where you're going to settle, and you know who the warden is, and you know that she's going to get her way and she's going to get those tiles. It's the same type of thing. These might be more economical. These might make more sense. The boss over here wants these, and you can pick these out, but you're just going to piss her off. So,
but to use that analogy, right? Doing it in the order was, we bought the backsplash that we wanted. Then we bought the cabinets to work around it. And then we just decided, screw it. Let's just do an entire kitchen renovation and blow the whole thing up anyway. It's bad organizations, poorly run organizations continue to make really bad decisions, and I'm not shocked at it. And
you know what you could have said? It's almost like talking about high top chairs in a stadium that's not built.
But for so long, it felt like, too, I'm not here trying to defend Warren, but would it shock you if the franchise and the McCaskey family said, we want you to focus on the stadium. Ryan has the football stuff all under control. And then when that all went in, he finally had to say, look, I'm stepping in. This is done because this is happening. And let's not kid ourselves. The reason that this delay happened in firing Flus is not Poles, and it is not Kevin Warren. There's a common denominator across all of this. What's the only reason you wait is because you've got to talk to ownership. Even with all of your power, you still have to talk to ownership. So there's still involved every step along the way.
And it's right, Cars. And that's, if you asked me last week or 4 days ago who my top candidates were, I wouldn't have had a guy like Bill Belichick at the top of my list, because listen, you and I talked about it. If you were to rank last week at this time, if you were to rank the top head coaches in the NFC North, we know where Matt Eberflus slid in. But then when you start to expand
let's talk about how we talked about it in the call.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
When you and I talked, he would be the 8th best
And
coach.
Carr's, I think it even goes beyond that. We went over this again last night. I think he's more like 10th.
I mean,
yeah, seriously,
you're
I think he's like 10th.
both the coordinators of Detroit and the coordinator for Minnesota and kicking them down the line.
Yeah. And how do you climb that ladder? Who do you hire to climb that ladder to even break into the top 4? It's a very short list. And listen, I understand Ben Johnson. I understand the allure of that, but you just don't know how he is going to be as a head coach. And like, I'm not saying that the Bears aren't going to hire him, but you just don't,
There's
don't
more
know.
to being the coach, though. And I think that's the point that you're getting at, though, Shane, is it'd be great to have a coach.
Yes,
but
I am.
you need to have someone that's going to come in and change what is acceptable in the front office, right? What is acceptable at Hallis Hall? And right now, what is acceptable at Hallis Hall is being the 7th worst team record-wise since 2010. You know, I still think we laughed about it. You, Phil, and I laughed about it the day that they did the firings, and Ted Phillips said, we're the envy of the league with our culture. Have we won enough games? No. Have we won championships? No. Have we gotten the quarterback position right? No. But hey, we're the envy of the league with our culture.
Yeah.
And nobody retracted from that. And so you do need someone that is going to be a shock to the culture system. You know, you and I, when we talked the other day, Shane, you mentioned about how the McCaskey family is such a fan of the Rooneys and the way that they are and operate. Yet they operate nothing like the Rooneys.
No.
They operate more like Mara and Woody Johnson and Jerry Jones.
The Rooneys are all about football, but they also know how to find their guy and let their guy do their thing.
But that's the point, though, is let them do their thing. Listen, I don't want to waste money. I'm like anybody, right? I don't want to spend any money that I don't have to. But if I hire someone to do a job and I sit down and say, I have no hands in this day-to-day stuff, but yet I'm at every press conference pictured along the wall, I know for a fact, because of how it's always worked, that the reason we don't fire people are the McCaskey family.
Right.
They are the ones that have been in all of the interviews.
Yeah.
Before we hired Ryan Poles, who was conducting the interviews was an HR person, George McCaskey and Ted Phillips.
Yeah.
And you're trying to say that you don't have anything to make as part of a decision. It's just a lie, and it's insulting to all of us, to continue to lie like that. It's time for you. Whether the one good thing that I like about Kevin Warren is that he will do what he feels is necessary. And this firing does not happen unless he steps in. I'll give George the bare minimum of credit that he allowed that to happen. But the fact that he needed to allow that to happen is still the problem.
Yeah.
You are still too involved. And guess what? The team has been shit since you've taken over as president. You don't win. You don't make the playoffs. You don't win playoff games. We can't even talk about a Super Bowl.
No.
We're nowhere close.
No, and I get it. And I do want to make sure that this is out there and this isn't breaking news and some, great thing that nobody knows, but this team has, for the most part, other than Arizona and New England, has been on the precipice of every single game that they've played in. Coming down to the last play where one or two plays can make the difference, or calling a timeout, or not having a head coaching gaffe, or anything like that. So is bad. I don't think overall the product on the field is anywhere near as bad as everybody is making it out to be. I think that the talent level is there. They 100% be more. Yes, Ryan Poles has failed the offensive line. Yes, Ryan Poles has done. Bill and I talked on the phone for a few minutes today, Cars, and how are these guys? How are they not bringing in young practice squad defensive linemen to get looks at? To look at these guys, and they're doing nothing there. Bring in a young defensive tackle with some size that's going to clog up the middle and just make things easier for Dexter, make things easier for Sweat, for Edmonds, all of these guys. And it's just, again, it's like Ryan Poles, man. It bothers me. He definitely has blind spots, and it's cost him a ton within the organization.
It's the whole reason that he is effectively cucked right now with power, right? Is because you get your part. So say what you will about Eberflus, you were part of that process to bring in Shane Waldron. And you and I talked at length about how bad that game plan was in week 1. Yeah. We talked at length. There was no Cole Kmet. There was nothing. Nothing made sense.
12 snaps Cole had in week 1. 12.
And instead of Gerald Everett, who got the lion's share. And in no way, shape, or form should that happen. And from every report we've heard, right, he was livid and he had to go yell and call some things. But it was no different than what you had seen in preseason.
No, we talked about it.
It had been the problem the whole time leading up.
I had shared with you guys sitting in Buffalo that Gerald Everett, he wasn't running 50%. He was 30%, 20%. And he's out there. And I'm like, what is going on? Why? For what? And if you go back to some of these early shows, I was done with Gerald Everett. I think, before the season started, because he has been an epic failure as a free agent signing.
Oh, I mean, it was inexcusable. And so to that point, that's why Ryan has been, eliminated. And you start to have to pull back a little bit. He has made some good draft picks, but so does every general manager. But he has missed and ignored things for far too long. Now, I will say, I don't know about you, but I'm glad that we don't have Joe Shane, and I'm really happy that we didn't take Kwesi, because I've really not liked the way that man has drafted either. So it hasn't necessarily stand us back, but Holmes in Detroit is running circles around us and is building a roster that is deep and has the trenches. I mean, I hated the play call by Ben Johnson, but doesn't it tell you how little you're respected that the offensive
100%.
coordinator is going to put the right tackle at left tackle and allow him to run a pass play?
Right. But this is the thing too, Cars, and this is, lots of people have talked about this, but it is a concern. If you're Ben Johnson, how do you only rush the ball 11 times in the second half?
Yeah, I'm not making excuses. You see every OC do this, right? Yeah. Like you can't talk about it if we're going to get Bill Belichick, that we're not going to get Josh McDaniel, right? And Josh had been known many times for completely abandoning. All of these OCs that are really good get a little too high on their own supply from game to game. And those sorts of things will happen, especially after the way Detroit had been dominating. I mean, just...
Oh my God. Yeah. It was a bloodbath on the ground.
And so you just look at it and you're just like, I think sometimes they get a little too cute, a little too bored. But it's not trying to excuse it, but you see that in everywhere. And I think my one thing I want to pull back before we talk about a lot more important, current stuff, is when you look at all of these coaches, when you look at every OC, it's just like watching player tape. You can see what you want to see. You can look at this player, or this coach and look at those things and see this. there's all going to be bad. There's all going to be good. You have to find out, is it more good than bad? Is it more bad than good? Is the high really high? How lows are the lows? So there will be reasons to hate each one of these candidates. You know, if you use Bill, 72 years old, right? Doesn't necessarily have the thing. He thought that Matt Patricia would make a great offensive coordinator when Josh left. Like, we talk a lot about what his record is without Tom Brady. Well, what has his record been, you know, without Josh McDaniel as his OC? It's not that great either. But
well, and that's the thing too. And I mean, just to kind of bounce off of that, and I've had so many conversations over the last couple of days, and especially since last night when, you know, I started talking about Bill Belichick myself, you know, him being very high on my list and really at the top of the list because of the organizational issues. But when people default to what has he done since Tom Brady left? Well, he didn't have a quarterback. Yes, Mac Jones was there, and I understand you brought up the Patricia, but guess what? He comes to Chicago with what? With Caleb Williams. That's going to be the best quarterback that he has had by a country mile since Tom Brady.
And don't also forget, with Mac Jones, he went 10-7 his first season, and it fell back to 8-9 before the wheels completely fell off this last season. So there are parts and pieces to this. And you know what, Shane, normally I have very strong feelings on the coaches, but I think at this point, if you ask me who the list is, I will be happy with any of the names on a list of Bill Belichick, Mike Vrabel.
Yeah.
I will be happy so far with what we've seen and heard from Thomas Brown, as long as that carries out through the rest. Kyle Shanahan and Ben Johnson. If it really starts to fall outside of that list, I'm not necessarily going to be happy, because like we always hear Cliff Kingsbury, because that's Caleb's guy. He was never Caleb's OC. He was never his head coach.
Right.
He was a consultant and then a quarterback coach. This wasn't the preordained. Caleb went where Lincoln Riley went, not for where Cliff went. So let's not worry about that. But I think outside of those 5 names, and Vince, you have the great point. No, you can't draft.
Yeah, and he's not. Cars. Albert Breer talked about this. He's not going to be coming here as that. No. Albert Breer talked specifically about Belichick wanting to, you know, being the coach and beating out Shula and really being motivated to show that, you know, he can do things without Tom Brady and all of that. And unless something goes completely off, Ryan Poles is going to be here drafting.
Even you mentioned why.
Yes.
Because who is one of Bill Belichick's best friends?
Yes. One of his very best friends is Scott Pioli. And who is Scott Pioli? Was in New England with Bill, and then he went to Kansas City. And who did he hire? Ryan Poles. He was the guy that gave Ryan Poles his first gig in Kansas City. And he's a huge supporter of Ryan Poles. There's a handful of podcasts that's out there, and then you can go to YouTube and search up some, just put Scott Pioli, Ryan Poles, and you can hear him talk about it. So yes, I'm connecting dots, and that's the way that this works. And I'm not saying that this is a done deal and it's going to happen, because if any team can fuck this up, it is the Bears. Yes, I understand that. But the Bears have big problems above the players. And it starts with ownership.
It's ownership.
It's ownership, and you're not changing it. So how do you affect that? You bring in a guy that has enough cachet that can pull his nuts out and say, George, go get on your fucking scooter and zip around training camp and take pictures with babies sign autographs, and shut the fuck up. You have not won anything since you've been here. Zero.
It is not our culture that is the envy of the league. It is our history that is the envy of the league. Now, sadly, that history is not recent, but the legacy of this franchise and what it means and how you can trot out a shit product and fans will still come in troves because of that history. That is what people are jealous of.
Yeah, and this is another thing too. And he was more so critical of the Bears drafting a wide receiver at 9 and not going offensive line when you draft a quarterback at number 1. And who gives a shit if he criticizes Caleb? Who cares? Guess what? That's part of coaching. You got to hold guys account. Phil has said this for years. Nobody is above it. You have to be able to destroy these guys in front of people and to make them better. And Caleb is built like that. You can tell that he's built like that. Players are begging our current coaching staff to coach them harder, to hold them accountable. They weren't getting it. Think about, like I said, think about Tyson Bagent in preseason saying the most important person in our locker room is Mercedes Lewis. Think about that. That means you have a shitty locker room, a shitty culture, a third string tight end that has more penalties than catches. And he's been with you for almost 2 years. But we're going to criticize Bill Belichick because he made a dumb move in having Matt Patricia be an OC? Bears fans are going to criticize him? Are you kidding me? It's the craziest shit ever.
Well, but he had those meetings with Tom Brady all the time where they would argue back and forth, right? Like that is what that fire was. Well, guess what? Who has Caleb been shown to be sitting next to at dinner and you know he can talk to at any point is Tom Brady.
Exactly.
So he's going to know. And Tom often says, like, that part of the relationship, they got to the point when it needed to end one way or another. And it did. And that's fine after all of those years together. All of those years together.
Yeah.
It was just time.
Where was so Robert Nash, and yeah, so Robert, and you've been around. I mean, I know obviously our patron and talking to you at the tailgate and everything, but yeah, we were originally told that Kevin Warren wanted Matt Eberflus gone and Ryan Poles banged at the table for him. So now these new reports that are coming out are Ryan Poles heard that Jim Harbaugh wanted to coach there was 2 places that he wanted to coach, Chicago or the Raiders. So he made Kevin Warren aware of that, and Kevin Warren nixed it from jump, made it not even a consideration. That's the new report. I know Cap has heard that.
I just find that one weird because the year before he only wanted to coach for us or Minnesota. You know, like
right.
It's one of those things where it's the timing of it feels awfully convenient.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And you know, it's one of those things that we as Bears fans really don't react well to getting kicked while we're down. And what I mean by that is we respond to all social media about it, and we keep going on and on and on about it. So I don't truly feel like it's true, but it wouldn't shock me if it was true. And that's kind of where I am. I don't think it's something that happened, but if it did, the way this team operates, it wouldn't shock me.
And I know Jordan Schultz, I sent him a DM to see. I know he's obviously blown up here over the past year, but I sent him a DM actually today, and I would kind of looking forward to see if he responds to it, because he went on and said, was talking about Jim Harbaugh and just said that, the it's toxic between Kevin Warren and Jim Harbaugh, and there's that was essentially a non-starter. And this was from a clip back in like 2023.
Yeah.
When he was talking about that. So yeah, and that was the other thing. I know Sears he refuted it also. So we'll see. And yeah, I know he knows Harbaugh, but there's lots of people that know Jim Harbaugh, so it is what it is. Guess what? Jim Harbaugh is not our coach, and Kevin Warren is here, and we'll see where it goes. And like I said, this organization has never done the right thing. Never. The structure is wrong from top to bottom. Nobody is on the same timetable.
Results has never mattered. That's really what it comes down to. We need nice people who go to church, and those people matter. And if we happen to win on top of it, yay. But if we don't, we just get to give quotes like Virginia's pissed off, and
yeah,
that works.
Yeah, and listen, I don't know. I follow Sears to get his updates, and everything that we have been told from people that have been spot on with a lot of stuff was he was 100% very much interested, and even called it a dream job for him to coach in Chicago. But like I said, it is what it is, and everybody is an insider, and it's crying over spilled milk at this point.
I think there's nuance there. At one point in time, yes, would he have loved to? But I think at the way that the organization was structured at this point, I don't think he was interested as everything sat at this point. Didn't mean that when that
it very well could have pivoted.
It
very well could have pivoted the second that they hired Kevin Warren.
Yes, or it pivoted when they probably could have hired him, but instead hired Matt Eberflus, and after that, he's like, "Look, I've given you the chances. Now I'm done." Right? Like you've made it clear I'm not in your wheelhouse, and that's never going to be a consideration for you.
Yeah, and I guess I should have started. I was looking back. Somebody was asking about Stefanski, and if you go back to a few shows ago, Cars and I talked about it, and if for whatever reason he is free, I think that he will. I think he will be involved in somebody that the Bears talk to, because we've also heard that if Stefanski was out, that Mike Vrabel would be a shoe-in for the head coaching job in Cleveland.
You talk about like winning in a tough place.
Yeah.
That has overcome so much, and 2 different Coach of the Year awards, and he's done that with the albatross of a contract and the shitty human being that Deshaun Watson is. There's a lot he can overcome. The fact that they went 11-6 last year is just mind-blowing to me. And that's a guy that he's 42. He's had this history. He knows how to let defenses play defense. That's another guy that's there, but it wouldn't shock me if he. So the only reason I think that Shanahan is potentially an option is because 6 years in, that team needs to reboot badly. They are expensive and brittle, and so he can all of a sudden sit down and say, "I want to leave." And so I'm not saying that Cleveland is going to fire Stefanski, but you have to remember that for the next 2 years, Deshaun Watson carries a $72 million cap hit, that if they want to alleviate that pressure, that means that they need to extend that cap hit past 2, 3, 4 years. So even though he only has 2 years left on his deal, he still counts in the third year for $25 million of dead cap against that. And his deal is fully guaranteed. Unless he does something wrong ethically, that they can prove, they have to pay him $170 million, basically.
Right.
So the only reason I would think that Stefanski would leave is we're going to have to, that's another team that's going to kind of have to be ripped down to the studs and really hit rock bottom to have a shot at a quarterback, which, because of how bad they are, and I'm not the biggest Shadur Sanders person in the world, but that's not a place Shadur is going to go sit down and play. So there's no hope for this year. There's hope for 2 years. If you're Kevin Stefanski, you could say, hey, I want out, and I'm going to start over somewhere else. And that's the reason that someone like he would be there. Shanahan, I think, is much more likely at this point because this season is Fred Warner has a broken ankle and is trying to warrior through in hopes that they can make the playoffs.
And Shanahan would be the glitz and glamour that Kevin Warren would covet.
We would.
Yeah.
And offensively, can you see a world where he comes in and Saleh right away is his defensive coordinator again, and that's how they tear off? And there's good potential there. Well, the biggest concern with him is just he is choked in big games as a head coach many times.
Sure.
Many times. Offensively, I'd have no concerns.
It's also been in the Super Bowl, so hey.
Yeah.
I'd rather choke in the Super Bowl than choke in a
divisional game.
Weeks 11, 12, and 13, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and like you said, change of scenery sometimes it's just needed, Andy Reid is the classic case there, but
and Andy Reid never got better at what he was bad at.
Yeah.
But
he was so good at the other stuff. Yeah,
yes.
It helps. And that's the thing. What was the hallmark of a Matt Eberflus? What was his specialty? He was a defensive coach that, let's play soft zone on 3rd and 18. Great.
Yeah. No, but those are the players. And Stefanski, I don't think necessarily has the cult of personality that some of these others do. And Shanahan gets more because of his lineage and a lot of his history. But
that's the thing. But what is interesting, Cars, is if you go through these teams and just keep track here, because they're saying anywhere from 7 to 10 head coach openings. So, all right, Buffalo isn't going to make a change. Miami, I don't think is making a change. The Jets, yes. So there's one. Patriots, I would put it there. There's been rumors out there that Mayo could be one and done. So who knows?
Illogical to me.
Yeah. Pittsburgh, no. Baltimore, no. Cincinnati,
yes. 100%. They're done with Zach.
Cleveland, we just talked about. Houston is a no. The Colts
is a maybe.
Yeah, they probably still wouldn't. Should, yeah, probably, but who knows? Tennessee, Jacksonville is a yes. KC, no. Chargers, no. Broncos, no. Raiders are in play. Philly, Washington, Dallas,
maybe.
Yep, and the Giants,
That's a definite yes. Nobody in our division.
No, just us. Atlanta, Tampa, New Orleans is a yes. Carolina, I don't think that they're going to move off of him after a year. Seattle, Arizona, the Rams, and San Francisco. But now the teams that we're talking about potentially being no's and maybes. So you have Drake May in New England. We put them as a maybe potentially, but probably not. You have Drake May. So there is a young quarterback there. The Jets quarterback? No, there's not one there. Cincinnati? Yes, they have Joe Burrow.
But they're the only team in the NFL that I would argue has the worst ownership situation than Chicago.
And they're not. Cincinnati is not trading for a head coach.
Yeah.
That's just not who they are at all. Jacksonville, I don't know. I mean, let's be honest. There's
Trevor
a lot.
Lawrence is a failure.
Well, yeah.
As that level of player.
I agree. Vegas, there's not a quarterback. Dallas, but then you're hamstrung with the quarterback with that contract in Dak. And I don't think Shanahan in Dallas with ownership there and with Dak, I don't think
you couldn't, when you look at the bad list of owners, you couldn't pay me right now to go work for Jerry Jones because Jerry Jones refuses to fire the general manager, Jerry Jones, and takes none of the blame for everything that will happen.
Right. And this is the kind of, well, it's not kind of, it's exactly what I'm talking about. And with Carr's point, but then the next thing that you really have to talk about is compensation. And where are you with that? So right now you're drafting at what, 11th, I believe it is?
You give up your own second and a fourth. I think that's what Gruden went. You're not giving up a first round pick.
Why did I think Gruden went for a first? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. Do you have that off?
Oh, no, you're right. 2002 and 2003 first and 2002 fourth.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. You're not getting. I mean, when he did that, Tampa was a good team, so it was a 20s pick. I'm not giving up a 10 pick.
Yeah, and Sean Payton got a first and a second.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, it's very interesting to see, how that would go. Because you have like I said, you're drafting 11th right now, and you have the Carolina pick and your own second round pick.
The way it's falling right now, you have the ability to draft the best offensive tackle in the draft. The way that this is going right now, and so you can't because everybody will sit down and complain, oh, we made all these moves, and once again, we don't have an offensive line. You can't move that pick. You can't move Carolina right now. You can move your own second round pick and other additional, but everything else, absolutely not.
Yeah, and there, like I said, that is the big separator. But I do think that is going to be looked into by Chicago. It's going to definitely be explored. I just don't see the Rams doing the same thing with McVay right now. I don't. He's what did we say? He's 37 or 38 years old. So, Cars, we brought this up, but I know you got some stuff that we want to get into. People that want to see some actual keys, but I am with Olin Kreutz on this, and it doesn't sound great when you say it out loud, but Olin Kreutz kind of took Thomas Brown to task about the first thing that he said when they gave him the interim role was, well, do I have any requirements this weekend because I'm supposed to catch a plane at 4:00? And then he flew out and left. Does that?
No.
It does bother me a little bit because I just know me. I would have just said, all right, they're gonna come here, because then he went out on Saturday and said that he was, on the phone all day with players and stuff like that. So you were doing business, but you could anyway.
See your kids. No, I think we're making way too much of a big deal over a Friday night to Saturday, because he would have been coming back on Sunday, right? Sunday. So you're really talking about a 36-hour window. Absolutely not. And to his point of not seeing that family because they never knew, and you know,
and somebody, and I don't even know if it's true, somebody last night said that he's got multiple kids with different women, so it was that was why they couldn't come here. But it did I'm just being honest, it did. I was like, yeah, because I just know me, and I'd be like, my first thought process would have been, well, I'm not catching my flight at 4:00.
You know, my thing has changed at this point. I don't like, at some point you gotta prioritize, and put your family first. And for 36 hours, it doesn't really bother me. Especially since, you know, there are other ways to kind of do this, and he'd been around, and it's not like the Colts hiring Jeff Saturday from out of fucking nowhere.
What do you want to bet that's epically wrong, El Sancho?
Well, we know McCaskey wasn't in the bat building, but right. I digress.
Oh, there was people in the building.
Yeah. So, but
I
don't think it's that important. I think everybody, for the most part, was allowed to go home if they so chose and reset. And it would have been different if it was not during a holiday weekend, but I really feel like that played a part, that everybody was gone, and it allowed everybody to kind of reset and do it. If it had been a regular Thursday night game, non-Thanksgiving, I think I probably would have been way more upset around it than others.
And again, I'm not saying that it's correct. I'm just telling you the way that my initial thought on it. And but listen, the NFL's absolutely fucking cutthroat. There's going to be people out there that see that, and it's going to be a thing for them.
Well, and my whole thing is kind of, but
the McCaskies might love it because he chose to do that.
Yeah, now I hate it.
Right.
No, the hard thing is this game has changed so much. I mean, like, you remember when you heard about Sean McVay early on in his life, right? And then Sean, they talked about, would sleep in the office, like he wouldn't leave.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden he got married and he had a kid, and all of a sudden he's getting home now, right?
Sure.
And those things change. I think time with your kids, as we all know, trumps. And if it were for more time or anything like that, but to be home, to put your kids to bed 2 different nights and just get that reset, and mentally, you got to remember, this is a guy who didn't really seem to have a lot to do. I mean, Caleb Williams, when they announced him as OCs, like, I haven't really interacted with him all that much. And in a 5-week period, he's gone from that to offensive coordinator to now running one of the most historic.
Meet our former Nickelback, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
And that changes a lot, but I think it's a good transition, though, Shane. Yeah. So we could move into a little bit of some keys here, and I wanted to show a little bit of the good that we've seen out of the changes that Thomas Brown has done. And so what I wanted to do is I'm going to show you a couple sets of numbers here, and understand that the numbers that are under the blue set of colors is going to be the stuff that we did under Shane Waldron, and the stuff that is under orange is going to be the stuff that happened under Thomas Brown. And remember, this is a small sample, but there's some caveats to that small sample. And so what is working with this offense, right? So we've gone over 300 yards each of the games. We have done pretty well as it came to points. Before Thomas Brown took over, we had 10 points scored in the first quarter. He has scored 10 points through 3 games. It doesn't mean that everything is fixed, but holy crap, does it look a lot better. So I want you to look at the top here first and just understand, during this stretch, we have faced the 10th, 12th, and 13th best defenses by yards. We have faced the 2nd, 5th, and 9th defenses by points. So this is not like Shane Waldron bumping up his credentials against the Jaguars and the Carolina Panthers. So I want you to take note of kind of 2 different things here. One, what you see below is we are pretty staunchly an 11 personnel team under Thomas Brown. So we have gotten away from a lot of the 12, a lot of the 13 packages. We ran a couple of 21 packages. So remember, 21 means 2 running backs, 1 tight end. And we have seen this little bit of a launch here for Caleb Williams. So his completion percentage has gone up. His yards per attempt has gone up. I don't know if anybody has seen, but Caleb Williams has set a NFL rookie record for most consecutive passes by a rookie quarterback without throwing an interception at 232 so far. And it's little things. You'll notice what's really the most interesting is that time to throw number is dropped a full 0.3 of a second down. Now, everybody heard them talk about Shane Waldron and doing this pure read progressions things where you have to get through 4. And now Thomas Brown has said, we're going to stick with that, except after the second read, you're going to make that throw. And so that has made a significant difference in that time to throw. So if you look at the under Waldron, 2.73 seconds to throw, but we had pressure within 2.6 seconds. That's why Caleb had always looked so rushed. Now it looks a lot better. When you look below, what does that mean to the run game? Again, we're simplifying what this all looks like. And the biggest takeaway is you're seeing more success out of the run game in the 11 personnel than we saw previously. You're also seeing a small decline here in the stuff percentage. So stuff percentage is the amount of times tackled behind the line. So you are seeing some of this information start to pan out. Again, Minnesota and Detroit are 2 of the better run defenses. Green Bay's up there as well. So to see a little bit of struggle in the run game is to be expected. But normally for us, if the run game fails, our pass game fails,
Right.
We're seeing that work. So I thought that was really interesting. And when you really look at, we're shrinking down, we're becoming an 11 personnel. So what else has that led to? And this is where I think it gets a little bit more interesting in the sense that we are now 40% of pre-snap motion. So you're thinking wide receivers, running backs, etc. under Brown, which is nearly double what it was from Waldron. So if you think of what pre-snap motion does, it starts doing things to tell you, are you in man? Which side is man? Which side is zone? Where are my looks going to be? When you take it down, Shane, you said early on, Cole only played 12 snaps in week 1. Gerald Everett has now played 13 snaps in the 3 games since Thomas Brown has taken over.
Right.
So he's clearly identified who is a problem. But I think the other part down below is where it gets even more interesting. So you look at that average depth of target, meaning when the ball is thrown, where the wide receiver is. And you see under Waldron, for the most part, everybody but Cole Kmet was very far away from the sticks. You see it's declined a lot for Rome, who's still our deep ball player. But everybody has seen a decline. Keenan Allen at 10.7 yards average depth of target was the largest it had ever been in his career. And now it's gotten down to a more respectable number. But it's also had that input, that other stat, which yards per route run is YPRR. What you've seen is everybody except for Rome's number has started to increase. Cole's has decreased a little, but that's because Keenan Allen is taking over and actually becoming a part of this. The other reason for Rome's number of yards per route run has declined is because he's on the field running more routes now. He's not losing snaps to Gerald Everett or DeAndre Carter or to Mercedes Lewis. He's on the field the vast majority of these snaps. So these are those changes. When you think about it, he's helping simplify where the reads are. He is allowing Caleb to play fast, to make quicker decisions, to not necessarily have to scan through and read the whole field. We've seen him scramble a little bit more. So if 1 and 2 aren't there, boom, go, run. And it's really made the whole operation much more efficiently. But most importantly, and for us as Bear fans, normally we see that. And in this stretch, it would have been Carolina,
Right.
Jacksonville, and some other really bad defensive team. That was fantastic defensive teams that we faced. And we started to see that success. This will be another test. San Francisco's got a good defense, although they're not quite the same as they used to be. It's going to be interesting to see how that carries on. But it's much more McVay-like than Waldron was McVay-like. Both same disciples, but it's much more like McVay with Thomas Brown than it was with Shane Waldron.
What do you think happens versus San Francisco? I picked the Bears to win, and I feel pretty confident about it.
It's scary when you and I are positive in that regard,
I know.
because it does.
Everybody on panel last night picked the Bears also, which is pretty rare.
Because I mean, if you look at it, right, it's McCaffrey's out, Mason is out,
yeah,
Bosa's hurt, Trent Williams is hurt,
Warner obviously, and Warner obviously with the ankle.
Warner is out. You know, if you add on top of that, Kittle did not look happy in the last interview that we saw, where he's like, I'm getting open, the ball's not coming to me. I think he is. I'm trying to remember where he's at so far. Like, he's just not having the normal season that he should. It feels like that's a season. It's a game that's gonna be way more. They've lost 3 in a row, and they've scored a total of 37 points.
Yeah,
over 3 games.
Right, and that's the thing. And not to go back into the coaching thing again, but this is on the players now, Cars. You know what I mean? You got the people that you had the issue with. Tevin Jenkins. I don't know if you saw that clip when Potash asked him, about Eberflus. Did it need to happen? And Tevin's like, I love Flus, but yeah, to your first point, yeah, absolutely, it did. And that says, but the players now have no place to go. Now you have to go execute. You have to get the bump from Thomas Brown. It's put up or shut up time.
Absolutely. And I
like Cole Kmet, wake the fuck up, right? Don't drop the fucking football.
But it's
learn how to run a rub route.
It's exciting because you've got Washington now calling plays, which I think does change the way that defense is going to attack. I think you're going to see some better. Like, we know that Flus gets ultra. When he gets scared, what does he do? He gets ultra conservative.
Yeah.
I don't think that Washington is that type of coach. And so you're right. It's going to free people up. But if I'm a broken record about one thing, when Glazer made the report about what happened with Tyreek, he said players want the coaches to be held accountable.
Right.
With that gone, what do you think happens? You're seeing some of that on the offensive side because Flus is not really that involved on that side. They're playing free, they're playing fun, and they're scoring points. You and I commented on New England.
I'm sorry, I just was looking up at fucking Green Bay.
Oh.
Watson. Fucking moron.
Oh, jeez. We talked about it in New England where like nobody was celebrating on the sidelines for anything. It was completely broken at that point in time. That has changed. And I expect that to continue to change.
Yeah.
And I think if anything, I'm extra appreciative for Jalen Johnson being the person that he was and sticking up for it, because what you're seeing now is players are holding themselves accountable as well as the coaches. And that's the best type of situation for everybody.
But they cannot come out flat.
No, they have to come out.
Full guns blazing, prepared, and you have to fucking execute. You do, because there's no more boogeyman on the coaching staff that, quote unquote, is holding you back. Now it's 100% on these guys.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And, by all accounts, they're all in terms of the players on Thomas Brown, which is Cars. We both watched the presser. It was like a fucking funeral. And then Thomas Brown got up there and it was like, getting your morning coffee and getting that fucking jolt. You're like, oh shit, here we go. This makes me feel a little bit better. But we've also seen that before. Though. Yeah.
No, the thing I will say that is different is we have seen someone come in and the immediate thought had been, thank God it's not the coach that we just let go. Thank God I don't care who it is, it's not that person. This is the first time.
Thank God it's not Jerry Angelo. Phil Emery is great to listen to. Remember his pressers?
Yeah.
You remember that
but I mean, like, if we ever fired a head coach in the season, I mean, would you have wanted Aaron Kromer as your interim head coach? Would you have wanted Mark Helfrich or, whoever this is? It never.
There was a point last
position.
There was a point last season, Cars, when we were talking about firing Flus in season. TTNL Network was talking about that multiple times. We had him replaced, and the interim was Richard Hightower. Yeah, and that was the only fucking option.
And so the only reason I'm disagreeing is you have someone who is young, who is very well thought of, and who's been getting head coaching opportunities. That is the only difference here. It isn't like we were going to have, who is the other special teams coordinator under Matt Nagy? The blonde guy.
Tabor. Yeah.
He under Nagy would have been the guy that you would have had to be the interim head coach.
Yep.
None of that would have been good for any of us. So this is slightly different, but I understand the sentiment. Yeah. I'm excited for the dude because I think he's going to be a finalist for this position. And from everything hearing from like Cronin and everybody else about the change, and from what you and I have heard about how he holds people accountable in the locker room for their performance and is not afraid to get in someone's face and challenge them, that's the type of player, the coach that we need. And so I'm through the moon.
I get it.
Hopeful. So I expect them to win, and big.
Yep.
Like 15 plus points, like 25-10, something along those lines.
I picked 26-13 Chicago, or maybe it was 28-13, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 28-16, but right around there is where I went. But, Braggs made a comment, and I do agree with him, because you were at the point in the season where it was, doing what we do, we're watching everything, but just from a fan's perspective, it was just you're focused on Caleb, and that's pretty much it. And now it's beyond that for me, because I want to see Thomas Brown. Yeah. I want to see how he is on the sideline, but I also want to see Eric Washington, and I want to see him release these guys. Cars, these guys are built to attack, and that's the thing. Do you remember Lovey back in the day? We want thoroughbreds. We want even Flus. Get your track shoes ready. We're gonna run, just not on 3rd and long. We're gonna play off, and we're gonna be passive. I am so fucking sick of that. Cars, when you have a team 3rd and long, you should have the confidence to be like, this drive. Go back to like 2005. You knew pretty much when you had a team at 3rd and long, the drive was done. You know what I mean?
Because why? Because you knew you created the 3rd and long by creating pressure. Yeah. And Ron Rivera was going to keep fucking pressure coming.
Yeah.
And then what did Lovey do?
Right, yeah. Come on, Bullet Bob. Let's go. But that's the thing, and I really do. I think Eric Washington, I think you're 100% correct, is going to be, because they have nothing to lose. Eric Washington has nothing to lose by letting these guys go and go play some fucking football.
It's going to be varsity to lose.
Yeah. Let's not get that crazy, but
but you know what I mean? Like it feels when that tide changes and you have a coach that people genuinely like to be around, and that Thomas Brown is a strong personality in a positive way that attracts people. And from what we've heard and seen from players, and he expects performance and things like that. It's different than just being, at least it's not that guy, right? Use what happened in Oakland or Las Vegas this last year, right? At least Antonio Pierce is not Josh McDaniel. Oh, shit, he's actually not any good either, right? And that's kind of where you've gotten.
And that's the thing. And don't let that clout Josh McDaniel as a head coach. And listen, yes, there's warts with him as an OC, but there is a massive difference. Sometimes you're just a coordinator, and that is fine. And I'm not just saying that specifically about Josh McDaniel. That's with a lot of guys. It just is what it is. But
you don't have to worry about it. Go ahead.
Ben's got a question there for you.
The Caleb and the other guy. No, so I don't necessarily. He will be part of the process to make sure that he has a good interaction with the person. Again, I do think that this leans somewhat more offensive. I would have more concerns about Vrabel than I would with Belichick, just because Belichick is coming in with someone proven. We don't know. And so, you'd have some of those conversations. I don't necessarily see the other captains being a part of it. And I don't really think like Caleb is going to sit down and do an interview with the person. But as part of that process, he'll be at Hallis Hall, having a meal, having a cup of coffee, doing whatever it is with that person while they're there, just to gauge the connection and see what happens. He hasn't been here enough to be like Tom Brady, where he can dictate those things, but he is important enough that you have to make sure that they can click.
Yeah, he's not sitting in on all the interviews, but he's damn sure going to be made aware of what's going on. And like you said, when they do interview Ben Johnson, or when he is, if or when he is at Hallis Hall, Caleb's going to be at Hallis Hall, lifting weights or working out, or he's going to be there. He's going to be involved that way. Yeah, you can bet your ass.
But that's it.
Man.
I mean, it was really interesting to see in a short period of time.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about simplify, scale down the personnel usage, scale down the playbook, scale down the reads, and look what happens. And now we're at a point, Shane, and I think the other thing that's going to be excited about this game is now you're going to start seeing where Thomas Brown can start to expand on the playbook a little bit and see what happens.
No, I totally agree, man. And I'm excited, and it's what'd they say, the most watched Thanksgiving was
game ever until the next game.
Until the next game, right. And of course that would have to unfold the way that it unfolded with our Bears, where I'm still getting brutalized by people that I don't even know if they see me with a Bears hat or a Bears hoodie or whatever, see my son. It's people just come out of the woodwork and go. But no, I'm looking forward to it, and I want to see Caleb, continue his ascent. And he has to average it's like 278 over the final to get the 4K.
Yeah, it's not super realistic, but I think the goal never should have been for. You and I talked about it.
100%.
Get us over 3,500. We're easily going to get there.
I'm more interested in the touchdown to interception ratio.
How about the fact that if you look at this right now, and where he's at, the conversation, I sent this to you a couple of days ago, before CJ Stroud had his last game, but which puts him a game ahead of where Caleb is. But he is at the point had like 200 more yards passing, had the same amount of touchdown passes, had more interceptions thrown. And, all of a sudden that thing wasn't looking so bad. If you're sitting there right now and Caleb is tied for 16th in touchdowns. And by the way, he's tied for like 5th lowest in interceptions if you qualify out some people. Like, that's a hell of a season with all the, and to your point earlier, Shane, that's with all the shit and turmoil that he had to go through.
Right.
That's just nuts.
Yeah, and I'm just looking. So he's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's had 6 games, Cars, with 0 touchdowns. 6.
And when you look at what that means, he's still where he is on touchdowns.
Yeah.
Which means he still has more touchdowns than Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, Brock Purdy, Trevor Lawrence. He's one less than Tua and CJ and Jaden Daniels. And for most of those, he's got one less game.
Right. Because he is just about, where was he's just about 200 yards behind Bo Nix, right? For passing yards right now. But Nix, what is that? 8 or 9 picks, I think. Bo Nix, 17 and 8. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's interesting. And like I said, the rookie of the year stuff is probably obviously out of the window because team success is a factor in that. And if people don't think that it is, well, I'm sure some of our listeners probably weren't even born, but I always remember Cars back. You and I obviously knew each other then, but never forget that Anthony Thomas beat out LaDainian Tomlinson for Rookie of the Year in 2001. And that was simply because the Bears were 13-3.
Now it has changed, right? I mean, it was 6-10 for Cam Newton to win, and it was like 5-10-1 for Kyler to win. But it's
right. But I
would argue that Brock Bowers might have to be the leader in the clubhouse, since he's like top 5 in yardage.
Yeah, and I just think they're going to end up giving it to, if he continued. Yeah, they'll give it to Jaden. I mean, I think he's got like 8 or 9 Pepsi Zero Rookie of the Weeks.
Yeah,
at this point.
It's going to one of the two.
None of it matters. And guess what? If there was a redraft, and I don't give a shit what anybody says, and if he did it within the NFL, Caleb Williams is still going number 1 overall for me by a pretty wide margin. I'm never worrying about year 1. Get me to year 2, and then we'll really see. Yep. Well, speaking about scaled down, I think that's it where we are tonight, and I am not complaining.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
I love it. But so here we are Thursday. I don't know. I have not talked to Mr. Vargas to see if he's going to be popping in tomorrow, but I know the tape has been cut. I haven't talked to Phil tonight, but I'm sure he'll be doing something on Saturday in terms of that. I know he's probably doing something very nice for his beautiful wife, Steph, not Carr's wife, Steph, but Phil's wife, Steph, because Mrs. DDP is her birthday today. So,
well, happy birthday.
Hopefully the old man got off his ass and took her to her favorite restaurant, Barcelona, but we'll see. I had a conversation with Phil and the boys because they had a weather delay for school today. So that was eventful. I heard Tate at one point say, "Dad, can we just skip school? Can we go back home?" And Phil's like, "No."
Yeah. Let me think. No.
Yeah.
No.
So yeah, you'll see that very likely on Saturday, and don't forget that the Bears play the 425.
Yeah.
East game, 325 for you Cars. There will be a TTNL pregame show that is scheduled. Then we go into the TTNL all access halftime show, followed up by BHL. And then that is always a fun time. But guess what? The post-game presser is going to be fun. We don't have to deal with Matt Eberflus, and I'm also excited about that to see how Thomas Brown handles his first post-game presser.
Same.
Will he
Very
come
much.
out leading off with the positives? And Cars, what about this? Will he be 1-0 on Sunday road games? Something that Matt Eberflus never did. Never
Will
won
he-
a Sunday road game.
Will he call a timeout when
Yes,
it's necessary?
I'll fucking call it, and I will get my point across all the way to San Francisco.
I love it.
You want to know who calls it at this point? I bet you Caleb calls it this time too.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. He's empowered too.
Yep. So, all right. We love you guys. We're going to get out of here right now. Detroit 10, Green Bay 0. Christian Watson trying to make a play, jumping up in the air, getting the ball punched out. You always love to see that. Someplace Peter Bukowski is crying because he's worried about Williams.
Well, he's going to show a Chase Claypool tweet here soon, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had to laugh at Peter's tweet. He's like, Caleb Williams shows 0 pocket awareness, 0 quarterback awareness, 0 game awareness. He just lacks in all of the awarenesses. And I'm like, well, you're just showing your football acumen there, Peter.
There's a reason
Yeah.
Packers players have gone after the dude, right? Like,
Oh, yeah, 100%.
yeah.
I'm embarrassed he went to Syracuse, but what are you gonna do?
That's on par for Syracuse grads.
Yeah. Hey, Peter's a cunt too. Anyways, let's just wrap it up there. Love you guys. Go Bears,
Hey, everybody.
Let's go get a W. Oh, in San Francisco. Let's go. See you guys.